Well, good morning, everybody, on this warm morning in October 2025. I'm delighted to help kick us off today, talking about positioning your firm to work with the Port of Seattle. We have a good lineup of speakers today, and kicking us off is going to be Maryam Lynch-Tate. She's our Business Outreach and Training Specialist. My name is Tiffany Scroggs, and I work with the Washington Apex Accelerator alongside Maryam. And we're also joined today by Leslie Miller with the Apex program as well. She'll be on the back end, kind of helping with the chat and the other functions of the team. But we're pleased to partner with the Port today. We'll be introducing our Port speakers in a minute. Emily, did you want to say anything before we kick off?
Wanted to welcome everybody in today. Good morning. Thank you so much for taking the time to learn about how to better position your firm for port work and also, I think, in general for government contracts.
Excellent. Welcome. Well, very good. Maryam, I'm so delighted you're here today to help kick us off with a few slides before we turn it over to our other speakers. So Maryam, take it away. You're muted. You
I
got
know. That's the sentence. You're on mute.
it?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Again, my name is Maryam Lynch-Tate, and I am with Washington Apex Accelerator. And we are pleased that you are joining us today to learn a little bit more about us as well as positioning yourself to work with the port. So moving forward, we always want to we're thankful for our sponsors and supporters that support our program. As a nonprofit, support is so important for us to be here, to be able to give these sessions. So we're always very grateful and thankful and want to make sure we acknowledge those. So a little bit about us for those of you who may or may not know who we are. Um, we were established in the mid 80s. And for those of you who may be old school, we used to go by Procurement Technical Assistance Center. That is PTAC. Ooh, what a mouthful. So Apex is a little bit easier to remember, but our mission since we've started has not changed. Our goal is to assist businesses with finding ways to work with the government, whether it be on the federal, state, or local level. And the program is funded by federal government through the Department of Defense and locally as well. So we have many sub-partners, and we're really proud of the annual impacts that we have and the difference that we make in the community. As you can see, those numbers are pretty good. So moving forward, just to give you an idea, we are a statewide nonprofit agency. We have 18 folks around the state who specialize in helping businesses find their way and maneuver through their journey to do government contracting. If it was easy, everybody'd be doing it, and we know that. So we've got some great staff that all around the state that can help you based on wherever you may be located. Moving on. So some of the things that we do in a nutshell, we help with registrations. For those of you who may be pursuing work on the federal level, that would be at sam.gov. We can help with that. We help you determine if you're ready for those types of opportunities because, again, working for the government is not easy. It's not the same as private industry. There are some different iterations that you sometimes have to go through, and we're skilled to help you with that. We help you navigate solicitations and things of that nature that you would possibly need to go after that work. Help you, receive notifications, help you with networking and meeting the right people. But today's session is specifically about identifying which agencies and offices may need, the products and services that you offer and how to connect with those. That's going to be more or less what I'm going to cover today. So this is a general roadmap to success. One of my colleagues put this together, and I think it's so appropriate. If you look and see, many of you are on different paths, and depending on where you are in your journey, there are different things that you need to do. However, we're going to be talking about market research today, which is the foundation of all of it. So if you look at where you are, what we're talking about a foundational principle that is so needed no matter how old your business is, how new your business is. There's some specific things that folks need to do if you want to be successful in this area. And again, that's our goal, is to help you with that. So we're going to focus on market research today. So, our overview. Market research is always one of the first things that any Apex advisor is going to try and help you with in terms of determining, what you sell. So, we're going to do a really brief overview of these things that are listed here. Understand that we do in-depth training on these topics. So, there's no way in the world in an hour that we could do all of this. This is going to be a broad scope. If this information is interesting to you, and by the way, all of these presentations will be shared with you afterwards so that you don't have to write down all of the notes. You will get a copy of these along with the live links and things that exist so that you can focus and listen to what we're saying. But we're going to do a broad scope and cover these topics. And if this is information that you think is helpful, please take a look at our training schedule because we actually offer in-person and virtual trainings on how to really get into the weeds of this if it's something that you're interested in. So let's get going. So what is market research? An organized effort to gather information. It is something, again, it is foundational. It's something that you really need. It's easy to be busy. It's harder to be strategic. By taking the time to do market research, you're going to be able to help identify and analyze the things that you need so that you can make a better use of your time. And so again, it may not be the most exciting thing, it may not be the sexy thing, but it's something that is absolutely needed. And it's a key factor in being competitive in the marketplace and to develop a sales strategy that works for you. So, keywords, they make all the difference. Now, I'm going to ask a question, and so I'm going to see if anybody is brave enough to come off of mute to talk about that. Where are some places that you think you should look for, recommend to look for keywords? Does anybody want to come off of mute? I like to be interactive if I can make sure you guys aren't sleeping on me. Anybody have a guess of some places that you can look to maybe help you find keywords?
I'll answer. I always like to look at old RFQs and RFPs.
Excellent, excellent. Anybody else want to jump in there? Okay. Thank you so much for doing that. So there are a number of places, and we're going to talk a little bit about that really briefly. Agency websites are a great place to look, procurement portals, code descriptions. There are a ton of places that people can look because people don't realize old solicitations and now everybody's new favorite, ChatGPT, can help you with finding those keywords. So let's move on. So industry codes. Now, again, the goal is to set you up so that you can position yourself with the port. But again, from a foundational standpoint, you're going to need to establish a set of codes that describes what you do so that you can start to drill down on the opportunities. So these are a few glossary terms, so to speak, just to make sure that everybody is aware because we realize everybody's in a different place on their journey here. The MIP, GP codes. If you're in government contracting, you know we have an onslaught of acronyms. It's absolutely ridiculous how many we have, but you have to learn that language if you're going to be in this realm so that you understand what's going on. So, and these are the codes that many agencies use, also referred to as commodity codes. And those codes, the state of Washington specifically uses commodity codes in addition to NAICS code, which many of you are familiar with, and the port does use NAICS codes. But you need to be familiar with all of them, and these live links are there for you to be able to take a deeper dive when you have time to be able to figure out which codes apply to you, your business, and more than likely there's probably going to be more than one depending on what you do. And so there's nothing wrong with having more than one, but you want to make sure that you zero in on the ones that make sense for your business so that you can use that as a tool moving forward. Next slide. So, and now we go into the federal, which we mentioned on the NAICS code. That's that 6-digit code that starts there. And if you have a NAICS code but don't know what your other codes are, there are tools that are there that can help you kind of do a cross-reference, which we're going to jump into a little bit now. So, where to find codes and keywords, which is what we were talking about. So you start with your NAICS codes. You can cross-reference them here. Use those to pick out some of your, again, those keywords are so important when you're looking to do a search, when you're trying to narrow things down and you're trying to get into it. And so being able to utilize these resources will help you as you try to narrow down. And the port's going to talk a little bit more, and they talk about Vendor Connect today and how you're going to be able to utilize your NAICS codes to be able to dig deeper into their system. So that's important. Small business search used to be called dynamic small business search. That's a new name that they just shifted. You can go and utilize that system using a NAICS code to go in and review what other firms have, make notes about different ones. One of the things that we'll talk about also is that sometimes if you're not quite sure where your codes are or what they should be, take a look at a competitor. You can take a look and search and see the codes that they use. Those may be helpful. You may look at some and say, oh, that doesn't pertain to me, and say, oh, well, that is something that pertains to me. So again, as we're doing research and we're trying to figure out what our code should be, there are all different types of ways that you can do it. Some of them are a little bit more unconventional than others. Next slide. So getting started. So you want to create a list of questions that, would help you with the procurement process. And I will say, whether you're doing government contracting or just in business, these 3 questions seem very simple, but they are essential in anybody's process to figure out what they need to be. So that's the question. There is no magic when it comes to market research. It does take time. You have to kind of have an investigative approach, and it takes practice, like any skill. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it. But answering those questions is really important because they're going to drive you to figure out where you need to be and who you need to strategize so that you know who you're targeting. We recommend creating an organized system to keep your data, and uh, we have 2 handouts that we will send out at the after this session that kind of helps you along the way of creating you can create your own spreadsheet or your own way of doing it, but we do have one which is on the next slide. We have an example of one that one of our colleagues created, one for on the federal level and one for the local state level that you can use as a guide to go and fill out. And we'll be sharing that with you after this session for participating. So let me keep moving. All right, so historical spending and purchasing forecasts. Again, these are just a few places that as you start to dig deeper and you figure out, well, who buys what I sell? How are they buying it and where are they buying it from? These are public databases that our counselors can help you with, but you can also go in to find more information. Next slide. So award data. This is another great place to kind of take a look at what's out there on the market. It's really crucial in terms of understanding the market trends, the types of contracts and how frequently those awards go out. How are agencies spending their dollars? And so that way you can identify opportunities so that you know who to target. Not everybody buys what you sell. So rather than waste time with trying to go and talk to someone at an agency that doesn't work with them with what you do, you want to be able to, again, we want to strategize. Where are the best places to spend your time targeting those agencies? And, what types of contracts are those agencies using? Is it a 1-year contract with a renewal every year? Is it a one time? Is it a one and done? Again, different questions, but now you have an idea of what that agency does and how often they do it so that you can time yourself in terms of and strategizing. If it's If it's, if it's during a cycle and they're not open right now, then it may be a good time to pre-position yourself to be able to start having the conversations ahead of time before it opens. Because once a contract opens and it's out on the street, agencies are very limited as to the conversations that they can have. They can have more open conversations when it's not on the street, but once it goes live, they are limited to what they can say and give you. So you want to take advantage of the time prior to it coming on the street. By the time it comes on the street, you're really kind of late. You want to be ahead of schedule. You want to be ahead of the curve so that you can ask the questions that you need, so that you can build the relationships that you need to, so that when it's time for you to pull the trigger and you want to say, I want to go for this, you're a known entity, you have your ducks in a row, and you're ready to go. So those are the types of things that you want to do. And looking at award data can really help you figure some of those things out and assess the pricing and the types of things that are being purchased, again, so that you know. And again, I just mentioned about the competition on the last slide. If you determine who's winning, that gives you an idea as well, who else is going to be chasing after this? Who else am I going to be compared to in terms of looking at this business? And depending on who it is, who can I potentially partner with? There may be an opportunity that you offer something that someone else that does a job that don't. They may outsource a part of it. Is that an opportunity for you to be able to build a relationship with that other and say, hey, let's pursue this together? But everybody's working, everybody's winning. So there's more than one way to do everything. So moving on. So primary award data sources for state purchasing. And again, we just mentioned these a few minutes ago, but data.wa.gov provides a lot of procurement contract data sets showing agency purchases, the amount that they spent, even who they gave it to. All of this information is public knowledge. When the government spends money, especially if it's above a certain threshold, it has to be, from a transparency standpoint, it has to be posted in a public place. The question is, where are those places? Many of us don't realize where they are. And, back in the day when you used to have to go to the library, does anybody remember the library? Does anybody even have a library card anymore? A card catalog. Now you have a lot of this information in your hands, at your fingertips. And by the way, don't discount the librarians, because they are super sleuthers and they can help you with some of this information that we're talking about too. But you want to be able to go in and look at some of these places to get this information. And again, it's so much easier than it used to be to get it. Fiscal.wa.gov is another great site to be able to go in. It specifically talks about the spending that's happening here in Washington State, and being able to look and see, how they spent money, how often do they spend it. Again, if you see an area that they're spending a lot of money and it happens to be an area that you're in, well, now you have an idea of, okay, well, let me figure out, let me do a little targeting so I can get my name known, introduce myself, and see what I need to do or where I need to be in order to be considered to get that job, to get that work. And then there's state agency contracts. And you want to, on many of these sites, it includes information again about the current pricing, the competition, and the types of things that they bought and were purchased. So great information that can come from just this data alone. So moving on. So, and then last but not least, purchasing forecasts. Many agencies post forecasts of what's coming up. Why is that important? Again, we talked about pre-positioning. You want to get out in front. By the time an opportunity hits the street, you're a little late. Because people have already been making plans ahead of time of when they're coming in. And most agencies know what their budgets are. They know what they're looking at doing in 2026, in 2027, and 2028. So it's not just about the short goal game, it's the long game. You really want to be able to take a look at what's coming up, again, so that you can make strategic decisions about where to put yourself, where to place yourself, who do you need to talk to, and how to get there. Now, there have been talks about putting all of these on a page. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened yet. So we do have a few links here of some agencies, including the port, that where they put their forecasts. But those forecasts can be really helpful. And there's more than this, of course. But this is just a few that you can take a look at if you're interested in doing business with any of these agencies or others, seeing if you can get a line on what they have coming up so that you can start to, again, have those conversations and start thinking about where do I put myself in the future. So my last slide for this section before I pass it along is some best practices for local agency market research here. Registering in different portals. Now, I say relevant, and that's why that's bolded there. You don't need to register everywhere. My goodness. You'll get so many emails, you won't even be able to get through them. But you want to make sure that once you target or you know who you're trying to sell to, those would be the relevant portals that would be worth your time in registering. Majority of these portals are free. You don't necessarily have to pay. It's time consuming if nothing else, but it's an investment in time in your business. So it's worth it to you, but you definitely want to see if you target and if they have an opportunity to register there, take the time to do so. Therefore, you can set up notifications. Many of them allow you to put in a notification and you can say, well, if anything comes up with this NAICS code or this commodity code, send it to me. And by you getting a notification by email, now you get prompted, oh, this came out, and then you can go take a look at it and say, oh, that looks like something I should chase. Or you can say, oh, no, that's not really relevant, and you can keep it moving. You want to maintain an updated profile. Ensure that your vendor profiles on these portals are complete and up to date. If someone goes into a site and they're doing a search and they're looking for some businesses, and this does happen, they look for a business, they say, well, I'm looking for somebody that does this. And there are holes in your profile. But I have 2 or 3 other companies that give all the information. Guess which one I'm going to first? It's just the nature of it. So you want to make sure that if there's a question in their portal, that you address it. Doesn't have to be a long, drawn out answer, but they're looking for information. They're asking for it for a reason. So you want to make sure that you fill in the gaps so that you can be considered. You don't want to eliminate yourself right off the bat because you were the only person that didn't fill out one particular thing that they asked for and everybody else did. You want to attend the pre-bid meetings. Really, really important. Typically, even though they're not required, we recommend that you attend them. One, because you may not have a question, but if someone else asks a question, it could lead to a discussion or an answer that you weren't thinking about. And it could change the trajectory of your solicitation or your response to the solicitation. So, participating in those meetings when you can. Outreach events, again, if a particular agency is having an outreach event, again, it's an opportunity to go be able to show your face, introduce yourself, let them know that you're there, that you're interested in working with them and building the relationship so that hopefully you can do business in the future. And last but not least, you want to make sure that you understand the requirements. You want to familiarize yourself with each portal's registration process. Now, if it was streamlined, there'd be no reason for my agency. It is not. Every agency has their own nuances and things that they need that they ask for different reasons. Similar information, but sometimes canned a different way. But you want to get familiar with whoever you're targeting so that you don't just think, oh, well, I did this the same thing for Washington State. Well, what Washington State may want may not be the same as what the port wants. And so again, you want to get familiar with those so that you're being responsive and so that when someone looks at it, they don't just think, well, they must have thought they were someplace else because they gave me an answer that didn't even apply to what was asked. So again, this is just best practices. And so this was me moving pretty quickly. We cover a lot of information with clients. This hopefully is a good setup for Emily to talk more about Vendor Connect and specifically the ways that you can do business with the port and to get familiarized with their portal system, which we just kind of led into. And so with that, I will pass it along to Emily. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Maryam. That was a lot of really great information. And yes, a perfect setup for where I'm going next with Vendor Connect, which is the port's contracting portal. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. Let's see. Are you all able to see my slides?
Looks great.
Fantastic. Okay, so my name is Emily Ho. I am the Community Engagement and Training Program Manager at the Port of Seattle. My role is to help small and diverse businesses understand the opportunities at the port, as well as be better positioned to pursue those contracts, as well as better execute them. So my section today is really about using Vendor Connect, our contracting portal, for market research purposes, really allowing you to fully leverage this tool that you have at your disposal. Here are some top benefits of checking out Vendor Connect. That's where you can view our current and past solicitations. That'll be a big part of my presentation today. If you are registered, you'll receive those automatic email notifications that Maryam mentioned in her presentation. If you have a NAICS code attached to your business profile and a project comes on that includes that kind of work, you'll get an automatic notification. It's also where you can be seen by different primes, by different government agencies. And then lastly, you can also view and contact different primes and different businesses that you see are interested in some of the same projects that you are. And so you can reach out to them saying, hey, like, would you be interested in partnering or being a prime in a project? So I'm going to fly through this part on registering on Vendor Connect, but I do think it is important, if you haven't heard it from me before, always a good little reminder of this is the best way to receive those automatic notifications. It is the best way to get onto our publicly viewable directory that everybody sees. And so this is the landing page for Vendor Connect. It is deceptively simple, or maybe not deceptively. It's very user friendly. It's not scary. Just click on that blue purple button for register login, and you'll see our registration for being a new vendor. It should take 1 minute. But like Maryam said, it is really important to have comprehensive and accurate information. Imagine you're in the yellow pages. That's a throwback. You're in the yellow pages, but your name is spelled wrong, or your email is spelled wrong, or you have an admin who's the contact, but then that admin doesn't really check their email. So it's really important to make sure that all of the contact information is the most appropriate ones. And then that you also make sure that you indicate any certifications your business has. The port accepts self-identified women and minority firms. So if you are 51% or more owned by a woman or owned by a minority, you can indicate on that on the certification line that you are a women or minority owned firm, and we definitely encourage you to do that. Here is what the yellow page actually looks like. So Adapt Engineering, Aegis, those are all the ones who have registered. So once you are registered, you show up on this vendor directory, and folks can click on your business to find out more about you. So don't miss out on this opportunity for free advertisement, essentially, and to make sure that your business is out there and visible. Okay, so Vendor Connect for market research. I'm really excited to share with you all about this. When you get onto Vendor Connect, there's a button that says current past solicitations. This is a snapshot of where that leads you to once you click on that button. And even though it says current solicitations, it will pull up all of the ones that are relevant once you put in a term, one of those keywords that Maryam was talking about earlier. I have as an example here, marketing. You can also filter it by the NAICS code that you are interested in. I do want to hammer home kind of the importance of knowing what keywords are most relevant to your business. I thought this example just now, like an eggplant and an aubergine are the same thing. But if you are in, I guess, like the UK and you type, like you search for eggplant, you're not going to get any hits, right? And so if you know that your business has multiple keywords that different agencies might use, that's going to be really helpful for you, so that if you're looking for what is applicable to you, you're making sure you get all the relevant hits and not just the ones that come up for a certain term that agency may or may not use. All right, so once the next slide shows an example of if I click on this specific executed contract, creative marketing services, that had a bid due date of August 1st and is now executed, what that'll show you. It'll show you an overview of that solicitation. I highlighted here the port contact and the email of that port contact. That is somebody typically in our central procurement office. And that is a great contact to reach out to if there are some missing documents, if you have any questions about that particular solicitation that was executed. I do also want to highlight there is a field for department. The port is a really big place. We've got our aviation division, our maritime division, we've got tourism within our economic development division. That really gives you a big hint as to what the need is actually going towards. The solicitation would be very different if the department was our aviation, the airport side of things, versus our maritime, which is seaport. And in this case, this is with our tourism team in particular. So this is still the creative marketing services project or contract that was executed. I highlighted here this tab of documents. When these aren't highlighted, it's very easy to miss. So I want to make sure that you don't miss those tabs up top. This documents tab is super important. It shows you all of the documents that are relevant or a part of that solicitation. And there's often multiple, and you do have to do some digging as to which one is the actual solicitation. And so I've highlighted here the solicitation final. It'll be typically worded and titled something similar to that. But I do recommend folks to if you're interested, you're like, oh, based on the overview, this is something that I would be interested in. Let me find out more. Is there going to, like, typically if there's a need for it at one point, it's probably going to come up again, right? And so this is you being able to do all of that pre-work before, like Maryam said, it's a little bit too late because you now only have 30 days to do everything. And so it's really making sure you do your homework ahead of time instead of last minute. And the homework is really great in that when you click on the solicitation, I snapshotted the table of contents from that final solicitation document, which I downloaded. This is essentially like almost the answer key in a way when you're figuring out your homework. They tell you how they're going to evaluate. That's the box up here. And what all the things that they requested for submittal. And then also a scope of work that is always where I go to first to be like, what do they actually need? What are they actually asking for? What are the deliverables? So highly recommend downloading the solicitation and taking a look at what that solicitation includes, so as to give you a better sense of what's probably coming down the pike. Going back to our creative marketing services page, there is a tab here for plan holders slash bidders. That is where everybody who clicked on this button while it was being advertised shows up. This is everybody who said, I'm interested in this. If there are any updates or added documents, I want to be automatically notified. And so this is a great, great, great list and asset to check out to see who is your competition, who are your potential partners, as well as who was the winner and who and what the actual amount was that was the winning bid amount. So really, really helpful information to have as you look forward to submitting bids in the future. I do want to touch a little bit on our future opportunities as well, tying in very well with what Maryam shared at the end of her presentation. This is the portseattle.org/diversity page. You will find here a banner that says View Future Bid Opportunities. So we were just talking about the past. Now we're looking into the future, looking forward. And once you click on that banner, this is where this is the page that'll open up. We've made it easy for you, or hopefully easier, in that it's not all of our contracts just on one Excel spreadsheet or PDF, but it is separated by the 3 different major kinds of procurements that we have at the port. So construction, consulting, which includes architecture and engineering, as well as personal consulting, so management consulting, anything that's more project related consulting, and then goods and services, which is typically more off the shelf procurements, nothing too kind of customized. So I think the next slide shows once you click on the Excel zipped version and download that, what that actually looks like. You can filter it. I find this is like a treasure trove, honestly. And this is why I'm sharing it with you all, because it's, I know I wouldn't click on that banner and then to download something and open it up, but you get to see here updated on almost a monthly basis, what procurements are coming down the pike at the port. And you can sort by the amount, the dollar amount. You can sort by the department who has that need. You can take a look at the description as to what is the actual need. And you can also control F, like do some finding of, again, the keywords that you might have that are most relevant to the services that you provide. And so this, I think, is my last slide before I hand it over to Eldina to talk about more about public disclosure requests and how to do a little bit more digging, more sleuthing beyond just Vendor Connect. So I'll hand over to you, Eldina.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Emily. That was a lot of good information that I learned more about too. So thank you for that. That was great. I'm just going to share my screen. All right. Can everybody see that? Okay. No?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Oh. Let's see.
And I just want to say I'm so excited for Eldina to share what she has today. PDRs is something I bring up every once in a while, so to hear it directly from the expert and to have it
Looks
shared
good.
out to this group is so exciting. Public disclosure.
Thank you, Emily. So hi, everyone. I'm Eldina. I'm the Port's Public Disclosure Manager. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how to navigate or access to records at the port and obtaining more information. So this is a slide just showing the kind of best practices for obtaining information and records. I'm so glad Emily already went over in depth about Vendor Connect, but it is truly a great resource for new procurements and, past procurements as well, and where you can do all of your kind of digging. There's so much great information on there. So that's kind of the first recommended step. And then also, Emily mentioned that usually the procurement shows the port's contact for that particular solicitation. So reaching out to the contact listed on there if you have any questions or need additional information related to that solicitation is also a great place to start. And then if you're still unable to find the information you're looking for, you can try searching on our Next Request portal. So Next Request is where all of our public disclosure requests live. That's where you would go to make a request. And I will share a little tutorial in a little bit, but there's also great searching features on there. So if you know the solicitation number or even the name of the solicitation, you can try filtering by those. And then you can download the records directly if they've already been released. So it's another great resource that I will go into in a little bit. And then also just making sure you're planning in advance. I think Maryam mentioned this, but our public disclosure requests come in. We get lots of requests weekly, so don't expect a quick turnaround if you're needing something, in a week or so. I would plan in advance and make sure that you're putting in your request way before you need those records, so that way you can ensure you have the information before you need to use it. So just to go into the Public Records Act a little bit, basically the Public Records Act is the law that governs what information we can, thank you. It's just I thought somebody had a question, but you posted the next request link. Thank you so much. So the Public Records Act allows public access to records held by state and local agencies. So what this means for you as a vendor is that the records you provide to the port are subject to public disclosure. And typically, if you look at the RFP documents, there is a clause in there about public disclosure, and which also means that your records may be released in response to a public disclosure request. So just like you may be requesting other people's or other vendors' records, your records might be requested as well. So it's something to remember and good to know. And then also just only submit the information that is required from you for the solicitation. I think that's a really important one because we only have limited exemptions that we can use to redact information. So you don't want to be submitting any extra financial documents or like tax documents that if you don't need to. So just really pay attention to what is being asked in the solicitation and only submit what is required. So what this means for you as a requester is that, you can actually request these records and use them to your advantage. So like I said, plan accordingly. Public disclosure requests are processed based in the volume and nature of the requests that the port is already processing. So sometimes it can take, a few weeks for us to respond, depending on how many requests we've already received and are processing at that time. And then a really important one is that public disclosure requests must be for identifiable records. So if you have a question or just want some information, that is not considered a request for records. And the port is not obligated to respond to that. So that's where, the vendor connect comes in handy, or reaching out to the port contact listed on vendor connect really comes in handy, because you can go ahead and ask them those questions. And then some of the commonly requested records include the selection summary, the source selection, proposals and bid documents, and list of vendors. So that's something to keep in mind when you're making your request, is to be very specific. So I'll walk you through how to make a public disclosure request, but again, as a reminder, make sure you're actually requesting records and not just asking a question or submitting a request for information. So down here, you can see this is an example request for records. They've identified the solicitation and exactly which records they're asking for. So it really helps us when it's straightforward and we know exactly what you're looking for. If you submit a vague request or we're not sure, it can cause delays, because we're then going back and forth with you to try to clarify what exactly you're looking for. So the first step is usually to go to our next request page. So this is what you'll see when you click on there. We have our contact information on here as well. But what you'll want to do is go to make a request. And here's where you'll enter the information you're looking for. So solicitation number or a description of what the solicitation is and exactly what records you're looking for. We do like you can make an anonymous request if you'd like, which just means that you won't receive the notifications by email when records are available for your request. So we highly recommend that you enter in the email, which I believe you guys probably will want that information right away. And then name, phone number, address is not required, or your company name, but that information is helpful as well. And then you'll just acknowledge here and submit your request. So that request comes directly to my team and we'll start processing it. Here, if you click on all requests, you can actually see all the requests that we've received thus far. So some of these go back a couple years. So you might find even older records in here that you're looking for. But I think I have, oh, oops, just 1 second. So I already pulled up this one, but here's what you would do if you were looking for a particular solicitation. So I'm just gonna paste in the solicitation number, apply filter, and then you'll kind of get a list. And if you hover over the first one, you'll see that that's the one I searched for. And they requested the proposals, final scoring, and any scoring comments from the reviewers. So if you click on that request, you can see that documents were released just last month. And then if you click on documents, here's the records in a zip folder. So you can just click that here and then click the download and it should automatically start downloading. You can save it where you'd like. So that it makes it really simple for you to look for records and download records. Sometimes you will see that maybe the records are not visible to the public. If that's the case, you can reach out to me and we can change the visibility of that. And that way you don't have to create an additional request and get in the queue. We can just change the visibility for you. So if you run into that, please reach out to us and let me know. But yeah, so you can search for many different documents here. As you can see, there's lots of CPO records that have been requested. So it's a great place to kind of go and start your digging. I'm just making sure I didn't miss anything. Like I mentioned, just try to be as specific as you can. We don't want to cause any delays with your requests, but we will use the next request portal to communicate with you. So once you've created your request, it's essentially creating an account for you. Next request, it will ask you to set up a password, which is really important because you can only view our communication if you're logged into the next request portal. So just make sure you're logged in and you can also message us on there and we'll see the request or see your messages as well. So that's kind of all I had for my presentation. I hope that was helpful. I did include the additional resource down here, which is our port website. If you go to portofseattle.org/about and then public records, you can find more information about public disclosure, and our contact information is listed on there as well. So I'm happy to take any questions or hand it over back to Maryam.
You're ahead of the game, Aldina. We're just gonna as we're wrapping up the presentations, a lot of good information in a short amount of time. So just projecting, we've got some events that are coming up that hopefully you have on your calendars. Obviously, the port has something coming up this week, actually. The PortGen Connects, the aviation and maritime maintenance event. That is an actual in-person event. And again, once you get a copy of this, these are all on our events calendar, which is on our website, but those links do work as well. So again, the port has some great opportunities to come and meet their staff, talk to them in person, introduce yourself. Again, get out in front of these different opportunities so that you can position yourself to possibly work with them. We've got more sessions in this series. We are halfway through the series. I believe this is a six workshop series. So next week and the week after, we're going to be talking about bonding. Very important. Whether you're doing work with the port or not, businesses need to understand bonding, and so important, we had to break it into 2 sessions. So those will be coming up the next couple of weeks on Wednesdays, same time, same space. If you're not registered for those, I encourage you to get registered for those so that you can get the information that you need for your business. We've got some great experts coming to talk about that. PortGen 101 for service agreements. We have the date. We don't have the link for that. Hopefully that will be supplied in the near future. Emily, maybe somebody from your team might be able to give us that, but we have it on our calendar of events to make sure that it doesn't get forgotten. And Advanced PortGen again, our last session of this series, construction contracting at the airport. They're going to be covering some great information. That I definitely think if you're in the area of construction and you're trying to do that type of contracting, you definitely want to put that date on your list. And then we have another outreach event that we're hosting in Linwood. That will be an in-person event on November 6th, the North Puget Sound Contracting Conference. And last but not least, to wrap up this entire series that we're doing in conjunction with the port, there will be a celebration of small business. This is an in-person opportunity in Seattle at the port's beautiful office. Oh my God, I love their office. In December. So we hope that you'll take the time to come out and join us. Again, another opportunity for you to meet port staff as well as some of the other partners that are come together under this series and some other primes and things of that nature. So again, we hope that you'll mark your calendar for some of these upcoming events. So now we're at questions, and I think Tiffany threw something in the chat. We're gonna.
Yeah, I welcome questions. I wanted just to say thank you to Emily and Eldina while the questions come in. And it sparked in me, like, it's so cool that public contracting is public and we can do public disclosure requests to get that bid tab and some of the proposal documents. And then I hope businesses also heard that when they propose to a government agency, sometimes that information is public. And so, Eldita, when if I were to submit a proposal to the port, how much of that would become public information that my competitors could potentially find out?
So all records you submit to the port are subject to public disclosure. So I would just err on the side of caution and knowing that all of it would be potentially released. Like I said, we have very limited information we can redact in these contract documents. So I would assume that it is all going out.
Okay, that's important information. I think even if I mark it confidential, proprietary, sensitive, all that, it doesn't really matter. The RCW trumps all that. Is that true, Aldina?
So we do have some exemptions for proprietary information, but we really heavily rely on the vendors to prove that that is actually proprietary information. So if you do, it's really helpful if you do mark your proposals as proprietary confidential, and the CPO contact will usually have some guidance on how to do that and what the best way that is to flag it for us. But I wouldn't rely on that. Again, I would just err on the side of caution and knowing that it could potentially be released.
Great, thank you for that clarification.
Um,
All right, to the attendees here today, we have a thank you and a cheers in the comment section, but does anyone have any questions? We have two representatives from the ports and Maryam, an expert on market research through Apex.
We were so completely thorough that no one has any questions.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and ask, thank you for coming today.